Captain Jihoon stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, watching the massive space station grow larger on the main screen. The structure was huge, bigger than any city on Earth. Lights blinked across its surface like stars, and ships moved around, like tiny insects. This was it. This was humanity's first real meeting with the aliens who ruled the galaxy. Distance to station? Jihoon asked. 2,000 kilometers and closing, replied Tae-hyun from his engineering station. His fingers danced over the controls, keeping their ship steady. All systems are working fine, Captain. Jihoon nodded. He was nervous, but he tried not to show it. Behind him, Minji checked her translation device for the 100th time. She was their language expert, the one who would speak for all of humanity. Today. Dr. So-young sat quietly at her medical station, watching the alien ships on the screen with wonder in her eyes. Incoming message, announced the communications officer. Put it on screen. The screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at an alien face. It was long and thin, with 4 eyes arranged in a square pattern. The creature's skin was blue-green, and it spoke in a voice that sounded like music. Human vessel New Horizon. This is Traffic Control Station Nexus Prime. You are cleared to dock at Bay 17. Please follow the guide lights and maintain slow speed. Thank you, Control. Jihoon replied. We will follow your instructions. The alien's 4 eyes blinked in what might have been surprise. Your language skills are adequate. Most new species require several translation cycles before communication is possible. Minji smiled and spoke up. We have been listening to your broadcast for many years. We learned your common language before coming here. This time, all 4 alien eyes blinked at once. Interesting. Most species barely achieve radio communication when we find them. You have been studying us? We wanted to be prepared, Jihoon said simply. The alien made a sound like wind chimes. Very well. Dock at Bay 17. A welcome committee will meet you there. The screen went dark and the humans looked at each other. Did we say something wrong? Tae-hyun asked. I don't think so, Minji replied. But she looked worried. The New Horizon followed the blinking lights to a huge docking bay. As they got closer, they could see dozens of different alien ships. Some looked like smooth eggs, others had sharp edges like crystals. One ship seemed to be made of living wood, with branches that moved slowly in space. Look at all of them, Dr. So-young whispered. So many different species. And now humans will be one of them, Jihoon said. They docked with a soft bump. Through the windows they could see the inside of the station. The walls were covered in patterns that hurt to look at directly, and the gravity seemed lighter than Earth normal. Alien beings moved through the corridors, some walking, some floating, some sliding along the walls. Ready, everyone? Jihoon asked. His crew nodded. They had trained for this moment for 2 years. They wore their best uniforms and carried gifts. From Earth, music, art, and examples of human technology. Most importantly, Minji carried the formal documents that would ask for Earth to join the Galactic Council. The airlock opened with a hiss. The air that came in smelled like flowers and metal. A group of aliens waited for them. The leader was tall and thin, like a walking stick covered in silver skin. 2 smaller creatures flanked it, one that looked like a floating jellyfish and another that seemed to be made of living rock. Welcome, humans of Earth, the tall alien said. Its voice was high and clear. I am Council Secretary Veltak. These are my assistants, Nexus and Korath. Jihoon stepped forward and bowed slightly, the way they had practiced. I am Captain Jihoon of the human exploration vessel New Horizon. This is our cultural attaché Minji, our chief engineer Tae-hyun, and our medical officer Dr. So-young. We come in peace, seeking friendship and knowledge. Veltak's head tilted to one side. Peace. Yes, most species claim to come in peace. Tell me, Captain Jihoon, what can your species offer the Galactic Council? Minji stepped forward with a small device. We have prepared a presentation of human culture and achievements. We hope it will show that humanity can contribute to galactic civilization. The device projected holographic images into the air. Pictures of Earth appeared. Blue oceans, green forests, white clouds. Then came images of human cities, human art, human music. The aliens watched with what seemed like polite interest. Your world appears pleasant, Velthak said. Standard, oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere, single moon, stable star. Your technology level is primitive but adequate for local space travel. We are eager to learn, Jihoon said. We know we have much to discover about the galaxy. Indeed. Veltak made a note on a crystal tablet. Your species appears to be typical for outer rim worlds. Bipedal, carbon-based, moderate intelligence. We see perhaps 50 new species like yours each standard cycle. Dr. Soyoung frowned slightly at being called moderate intelligence, but she said nothing. We have brought formal documents requesting membership in the Galactic Council, Minji said, offering a sealed container. Velthak took the container without looking at it. Yes, standard procedure. You will be granted provisional trading status while your application is reviewed. This process typically takes 5 to 10 standard cycles. Cycles? Taehyun asked. Your years, the floating jellyfish, Nexus, explained. Its voice sounded like bubbles popping. The council must evaluate each species carefully before granting full membership. We understand, Jihoon said. We are willing to wait. Good. You will be assigned Trading Sector Zeta 7 for your commercial activities. It is a safe area with several established trade routes. You may establish one permanent outpost and conduct business with approved species only. Velthak handed Jihoon a small crystal. This contains all relevant regulations and approved contact lists. Study them carefully. Violations of galactic law carry severe penalties. What kind of penalties? Dr. Soyoung asked. The rock-like alien, Koreth, spoke for the first time. Its voice was deep and rumbling. For minor violations, trade restrictions. For major violations, it paused. Let us hope you are a law-abiding species. We are, Jihoon said quickly. Humans value peace and cooperation. Excellent, Velthak said, but there was something in its tone that suggested it had heard this before. Your quarters have been prepared. You may remain on the station for 7 local days to finalize your paperwork and receive orientation briefings. Thank you, Minji said. We are honored by your welcome. As they were led through the station corridors, the humans marveled at the sights around them. Aliens of every shape and size moved through the passages. Some had tentacles instead of arms, others had wheels instead of legs. One creature seemed to be made entirely of light, floating past them like a living rainbow. Amazing, Taehyun whispered. Look at all this technology. The walls themselves seemed alive, changing color and pattern as they walked. Information flowed across surfaces in languages the humans couldn't read. The air moved in careful currents, carrying different scents from different areas of the station. Their quarters were small but comfortable. The furniture could change shape to fit human bodies, and the walls could display images from any world in the galaxy. As soon as they were alone, the 4 humans gathered to talk. Well, Jihoon said, that went better than expected. Did it? Minji asked. They seemed condescending, like they were talking to children. Maybe that's normal, Dr. Soyoung suggested. We are new to all this. From their perspective, we probably are like children. Taehyun was already examining the crystal Velthak had given them. The technology in this thing is incredible. It's storing more information than our best computers, and it's smaller than my thumb. What does it say about our trading sector? Jihoon asked. Taehyun connected the crystal to his tablet. Information flowed across the screen. Sector Zeta 7. Looks like it's on the outer edge of council space. Not much traffic. Mostly agricultural worlds and mining operations. They're keeping us away from the important areas, Minji realized. For now, Jihoon said. We have to prove ourselves first. That's fair. Dr. Soyoung was looking out the window at the stars. Do you think they really have 50 species like us every year? Probably, Jihoon replied. The galaxy is a big place. Then, why do I feel like they're hiding something, she asked. The others looked at her. Dr. So-young was usually the optimistic one, always seeing the best in people and situations. What do you mean? Minji asked. I don't know. Something about the way they looked at us like they were afraid? No, that's not right. Like they were being very careful about something. They're probably just being cautious, Taehyun said. New species could be dangerous. They don't know us yet. Maybe, Dr. So-young said, but she didn't sound convinced. Outside their window, the great space station continued its slow rotation. Ships came and went, carrying beings and cargo across the galaxy. Somewhere in the vast structure, aliens were processing humanity's application to join their civilization. None of the humans knew that in the deepest archives of the station, ancient computers were already beginning to cross-reference the coordinates of a small blue world called Earth. None of them knew that this simple bureaucratic procedure would soon reveal a truth that would shake the galaxy to its core. For now, they were just 4 humans in a big universe, trying to make friends with their new neighbors. 3 months had passed since the humans arrived at Nexus Prime. They had finished their paperwork and moved to their assigned trading sector. The New Horizon now traveled between small worlds, carrying goods and building relationships with other species. On the station, life continued as normal. Ships came and went. New species applied for membership while others conducted their business. The humans were almost forgotten, just another entry in the vast databases of the Galactic Council. Almost forgotten, but not quite. Nexus floated through the archive section, his jellyfish-like body pulsing with soft blue light. As a junior archivist, his job was simple but important. He maintained the databases, checked for errors, and made sure all information was properly stored. It was quiet work, but Nexus enjoyed it. He liked order and accuracy. Today he was running routine maintenance on the new species database. Every few months he had to cross-reference new entries with existing records to prevent duplicates and conflicts. It was boring work, but someone had to do it. He pulled up the list of recent applications. The humans were near the top. Species designation. Human world designation. Earth coordinates. Section 7G 4492. Standard stuff. Nexus began the cross-reference search, letting the computer check these coordinates against every record in the system. The search would take a few minutes, so Nexus turned his attention to other tasks. He organized some trade records and updated a few star charts. When he looked back at his screen, something was wrong. The computer had found a match. That should not happen. New species were supposed to be from unexplored worlds. If coordinates matched an existing record, it meant either the new species was lying about their location, or someone had made a serious mistake. Nexus checked the match. The coordinates were identical down to the smallest decimal, but the matching record was not in the new species database. It was in the Ancient Records Archive. The Ancient Records Archive was special. It contained information from the galaxy's earliest civilizations, dating back over 50,000 years. Most of it was historical curiosity. Old star maps, extinct species, forgotten technologies. Nexus had access to it, but he rarely needed to look at it, until now. He opened the matching record and felt his body go rigid with shock. The file was marked with warning symbols he had never seen before. Red indicators flashed around the text. At the top of the record, in letters that seemed to burn on the screen, was a single word: forbidden. Nexus read the entry with growing horror. According to the ancient records, the coordinates that humans called Earth had once been home to something else. Something the early galactic civilizations had called the Forge of Nightmares. The file contained fragments of reports from 50,000 years ago. Most of the data was corrupted or incomplete, but what remained painted a terrifying picture. The ancient texts spoke of beings of incredible violence and cunning, creatures who turned war into an art form and seemed to thrive on conflict. Impossible, Nexus whispered to himself. This has to be an error. But as he checked and rechecked the coordinates, he knew there was no mistake. The world the humans called Earth was the same world that had once driven the galaxy's first civilization to the edge of extinction. Nexus's tentacles shook as he read more of the ancient report. The beings from that world had possessed technology that shouldn't have existed. They had fought with a ferocity that terrified species who had conquered half the galaxy. Most disturbing of all, they had seemed to grow stronger the more desperate their situation became. The ancient records described battles where these creatures had been outnumbered 100 to 1, only to emerge victorious through tactics so brutal and clever that surviving witnesses had refused to speak of them. The reports mentioned something called human wave attacks and berserker fury, and never surrender protocols. Nexus realized he was reading about humans, the same humans who had politely requested trading permits, the same humans who had spoken of peace and cooperation, the same humans who were now flying around the galaxy, making friends with other species. The ancient report suddenly cut off. There was no explanation for what happened to these terrifying beings. They simply vanished from galactic history, leaving behind only warnings and nightmares. Nexus knew he had to report this immediately. This was far beyond his authority as a junior archivist. He tried to contact his supervisor, but the communication system told him that senior archivist Forthak was in deep meditation and could not be disturbed. He tried several other supervisors, but they were all busy or unavailable. Finally, in desperation, Nexus sent an emergency message directly to Council Security. The message was simple. Urgent. Ancient records match found for new species. Request immediate consultation. The response came back within minutes. Report. To Security Level 1 immediately. Tell no one of your discovery. Nexus had never been to Security Level 1. It was deep in the station's core, protected by shields and guards and automated defense systems. As he floated through the corridors, other beings moved aside. Word had spread quickly that something was wrong. The security chief was a massive creature called Kareth, the same rock-like being who had been present when the humans first arrived. Kareth's stone face showed no emotion as Nexus explained his discovery. You are certain of the coordinates? Kareth asked in his rumbling voice. Yes, sir, I checked them 17 times. The match is perfect. And the ancient warnings? Fragmentary, sir, but clear enough. The world these humans call Earth was once known as the Forge of Nightmares. The beings who lived there. Nexus paused, his tentacles curling with fear. They nearly destroyed galactic civilization. Kareth was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke into his communication device. Priority Alpha message to all council members. Emergency session called immediately. Security classification. Maximum. He looked back at Nexus. You will remain here until further notice. You will speak to no one about what you have discovered. Is this understood? Yes, sir. But what about the humans? Shouldn't we warn them that we know? Warn them? Kareth's laugh was like rocks grinding together. Young archivist, if these records are accurate, we should be asking them for mercy, not giving them warnings. Meanwhile, far away in Trading Sector Zeta-7, the humans continued their peaceful activities. Captain Jihoon had established a small trading post on a pleasant world called Haven. The local inhabitants, who looked like tall, furry bears, had welcomed the humans warmly. Sujin, one of the human merchants, was negotiating a deal for exotic fruits when her communication device beeped. It was a message from Dr. Soyoung, who was helping establish a medical clinic on a nearby moon. Sujin, have you noticed anything strange about how the other species are treating us lately? Sujin thought about it. Now that Soyoung mentioned it, there had been some odd behavior. A few alien traders had seemed nervous around the humans. Some had even canceled planned meetings without explanation. I thought they were just busy, Sujin replied. Why? Dongyun was telling me that his cultural exchange program was suddenly suspended, no explanation. And yesterday, 3 different species refused to even talk to him. Donghyun was a human scientist who had been working to establish research partnerships with alien academics. He was one of the friendliest humans in the sector, always eager to learn about other cultures. Maybe there's some kind of bureaucratic delay, Sujin suggested. but she didn't really believe it. Maybe. Or maybe something else is happening. Back on Nexus Prime, the emergency council session had begun. Representatives from dozens of species gathered in the Great Chamber, their faces, or face equivalents, showing confusion and concern. Many had been pulled away from important business and they wanted to know why. High Archon Zephyrix called the session to order. Zephyrix was ancient even by galactic standards and had led the council for over 3,000 years. When he spoke, the entire galaxy listened. "Council members," Zephyrix began, "we have discovered something that may threaten the stability of our entire civilization." A murmur ran through the assembled beings. Threats to galactic civilization were rare and serious. Our archives have revealed that the species known as humans may not be the peaceful newcomers they appear to be. Their world, which they call Earth, appears in our most ancient records under a different name. The murmur became a buzz of worried conversation. "What name?" called out one of the representatives. Zephyrix's voice dropped to barely above a whisper, but in the silent chamber every being heard him clearly. "The Forge of Nightmares." The chamber erupted. Representatives shouted questions, demanded explanations, and called for immediate action. Some species began preparing to leave. Others demanded military protection. The careful order of the Galactic Council began to crumble. As ancient fears surfaced, it took several minutes for Zephyrix to restore order. When the chamber was quiet again, he continued, "We do not yet know if these humans are the same beings described in the ancient warnings, but we must proceed with extreme caution. If the records are accurate, we may have unknowingly invited the galaxy's greatest threat back into our midst." Security Chief Korath stood and addressed the assembly. "I recommend immediate containment protocols. Restrict human movement, monitor their communications, and prepare defensive measures." High Archon Zephyrix stood before the sealed vault deep beneath Nexus Prime. The vault had not been opened in over 20,000 years. Its contents were so dangerous that only 3 beings in the galaxy knew the access codes. Today, for the first time in millennia, those codes would be used. The massive door was covered in warning symbols from a dozen extinct civilizations. Each symbol carried the same message in different languages. Forget what lies within, or doom follows. But forgetting was no longer an option. The humans were real. They were here. And the galaxy needed to know exactly what they were dealing with. Zephyrix placed his hand on the scanner. Ancient machinery hummed to life, reading genetic patterns that had been encoded into the system when the galaxy was young. The vault recognized him and began its unlocking sequence. Security Chief Korath stood beside him, along with 3 other council members who held maximum security clearance. None of them spoke as the great door slowly opened, revealing a chamber filled with floating data crystals. "The complete archive of the First Galactic War," Zephyrix said quietly. "Everything our ancestors knew about the beings they called the Children of the Forge." The archive was massive. Thousands of crystal records floated in perfect preservation fields, each one containing reports, videos, testimonies, and warnings from 50,000 years ago. The early galactic civilization had been thorough in documenting their greatest nightmare. Korath activated the central viewing system. Holographic displays filled the air around them, showing star maps, battle reports, and images that made even these hardened council leaders step back in shock. The first image showed a small blue world orbiting a yellow star. Earth, exactly as the humans had described it. But the planet in these ancient records was different. Cities covered the continents, but they were strange cities, massive fortresses built for war. The oceans were filled with floating weapons platforms. Even the moon had been turned into a military base. This was taken 52,000 years ago, Zephyrix read from the data. First contact with the inhabitants of the world they called Terra. Initial diplomatic mission sent 3 ships. The next image made Korath's stone form crack with stress. It showed the wreckage of those 3 ships, twisted into shapes that suggested the destruction had been deliberate and artistic. The ancient report noted that the inhabitants of Terra had returned the ships with a simple message: "We keep what threatens us." "They destroyed the diplomatic mission?" asked Council Member Thylon, a floating crystal being whose light flickered with worry. "No," Zephyrix replied, reading further. "They improved it. According to this report, the ships were returned in perfect working order, but they had been enhanced. Every weapon system was upgraded. Every defensive measure was strengthened. The message was clear. Humans could make anything better at killing." The records continued, showing the escalation that followed. The Maor, early galactic civilization, had tried to isolate Earth, setting up blockades around the solar system. The humans had responded by somehow turning their own planet into a massive weapon. "Look at this," Korath rumbled, pointing to a tactical analysis. "They used their moon as a kinetic projectile. They aimed it at the blockade fleet and fired pieces of it using magnetic accelerators. Pieces the size of mountains, moving at incredible speeds." "And that worked?" Thylin asked. "It did more than work. The blockade fleet was destroyed completely. But that wasn't the worst part." Zephyrix's voice grew quiet. "According to the survivors, the humans seemed to enjoy the challenge. They were laughing during the battle." The archive contained thousands of such reports, humans using asteroid belts as weapons, humans turning captured alien technology into things its creators had never imagined, humans fighting battles they should have lost and winning through tactics so brutal and creative that entire alien species had demanded the reports be classified. One report stood out among the others. It was a personal account from Admiral Vexthar of the Crimson Fleet, the most powerful military force in the early galaxy. "We thought we understood war," the report began. "We had conquered 17 systems and defeated dozens of species. We were the masters of galactic combat. Then we met the humans." The account described a battle near Jupiter. The human fleet was outnumbered 50-1. According to every tactical computer, they should have surrendered immediately. Instead, they attacked. "They came at us in waves," Admiral Vexithar wrote, "but not random waves. Each wave was calculated to cause maximum psychological damage. They sacrificed ships in ways that forced us to watch our weapons destroy helpless targets. They made us into monsters in our own eyes. Then, when our morale was broken, they revealed that their destroyed ships were still functional. They had been playing dead, waiting for us to lower our guard. The entire battle had been a trap designed not just to defeat us, but to break our will to fight. The Crimson Fleet, the most feared military force in the galaxy, had retreated after that battle. They never fought humans again, but the worst revelation was yet to come. As Zephyrix delved deeper into the records, he found reports of human prisoners captured during various battles. The aliens had hoped to learn about human society, to understand their enemies better. What they learned had terrified them more than any battle. "The humans we captured were not soldiers," read one report. "They were teachers, farmers, artists, children. When we asked them about their military training, they seemed confused. They explained that every human learns to fight, not because they are forced to, but because they enjoy the challenge. We showed them videos of our greatest military victories, expecting them to be impressed or frightened. Instead, they offered suggestions for improvement. A human child, no more than 12 years old, pointed out 3 tactical errors in our most celebrated battle plan. Most disturbing of all, they seemed genuinely sorry that we were enemies. They spoke of friendship and cooperation, even while planning escape attempts that demonstrated strategic thinking beyond our best generals. The reports painted a picture of a species that was impossible to understand. Humans were capable of incredible violence, but they preferred peace. They could plan devastating military campaigns, but they would rather teach alien children how to paint. They could turn anything into a weapon, but they would rather use it to build gardens. "They are not evil," concluded one ancient xenopsychologist. "Evil we could understand and fight. They are something far more dangerous. They are good at everything, including war, and they do not seem to understand that they should not be." As the council leaders read more reports, a pattern emerged. Humans did not simply win battles. They won them in ways that changed how warfare was conducted. Every engagement taught them something new, and they adapted faster than any species the galaxy had ever encountered. "Look at this timeline," Korath said, projecting a chronological display. First contact to total galactic warfare. Only 18 months. The humans went from primitive spaceflight to building weapons that could crack planets. How is that possible? The answer was in the psychological profiles. Humans, according to the ancient reports, did not see limitations the way other species did. When told something was impossible, they treated it as a puzzle to solve. When faced with superior technology, they found ways to turn it against its creators. Most terrifying of all, they learned from every defeat. The reports showed that humans never made the same mistake twice. Each battle taught them something that made them more dangerous in the next one. Here, Zephyric said, pointing to a strategic analysis. The Spiral Campaign. Humans fighting against the combined fleets of 12 species. They lost 70% of their ships in the first engagement. And then, Thylon asked, they won the next 5 battles without losing a single ship. They had learned to predict their enemies' tactics perfectly. The records showed that the war had lasted only 7 years, but in that time, humans had gone from defending their single world to launching attacks across half the galaxy. They built mobile factories that could produce weapons while traveling between stars. They created artificial intelligences that could outthink any organic mind. They developed technologies that the ancient galactic civilization still did not understand. But then suddenly the war ended. This is strange, Korath said, examining the final reports. The humans just stopped. The last entries in the archive were confusing and contradictory. Humans had achieved total victory. Their fleets controlled most of known space. Their technology had advanced beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. They could have ruled the entire galaxy as conquerors. Instead, they had simply gone home. The final transmission from Terra, Zephyrix read aloud. Human leader identification, Admiral Minho. Message: we are sorry for the pain we have caused. We never wanted to hurt anyone. We will return to our world and remain there until we have learned to be better neighbors. Please do not follow us. We do not trust ourselves not to defend our home. And that was it? Thylon asked. That was it. The human fleets disappeared. Their advanced outposts went silent. Long-range sensors showed them systematically destroying their own space-based technology. Within 1 year, there was no sign that humans had ever left their solar system. The message reached Earth Command at exactly 14:30 local time. Admiral Chanwu was reviewing supply reports when his communication officer rushed into his office, face pale with worry. Sir, we have a priority transmission from Captain Jihoon. He says it's urgent. Chanwu activated the secure channel. Jihoon's face appeared on the screen, and the Admiral could see the stress in the younger man's eyes. Admiral, something is very wrong out here. In the past week, 17 different species have suddenly canceled trade agreements. 3 research partnerships have been terminated without explanation. And yesterday, an entire alien colony evacuated their planet when they learned humans were visiting the system. Evacuated? Chanwu frowned. Why? That's what we're trying to figure out. We've done nothing wrong. Our people have been polite, helpful, peaceful. But something has the aliens scared, and it's spreading fast. Chanwu was about to respond when another communication came in. Dr. Soyoung appeared on a second screen, calling from the medical station on Haven Colony. Admiral, I need to report something strange. Yesterday, I was working with an alien doctor, a being called Thexlon from the Healers Guild. We were discussing human medical techniques when he suddenly went very quiet. He asked me how humans handle pain, and when I explained our methods, he became visibly frightened. What did you tell him? Chanwu asked. Nothing scary, just that humans have high pain tolerance and that we can function even when injured. Basic medical facts. But he acted like I had described some kind of horror. A third communication joined the conference. It was Dong-hyun, the cultural researcher, calling from his temporary office on the trade station. Admiral, you need to know about this. I was giving a presentation about human history to a group of alien academics. Just basic stuff. Our development, our cultures, our wars. When I got to the part about World War II, 3 of them actually fainted. What specifically did you tell them? Chanwu asked. Nothing graphic. Just that it was a global conflict. that lasted 6 years and involved most of Earth's population. I mentioned the casualty numbers and the fact that we rebuilt our civilization afterward. But they reacted like I was describing the end of the universe. Chan-Woo felt a cold dread building in his stomach. What else? That's not the worst part. Dong-Yun continued. After the aliens recovered, they started asking strange questions. They wanted to know if humans still practice something called total war. They asked if we still have something they called berserker genes. And one of them asked if human children are still taught what they called apex predator behaviors. Doctor, So-Young spoke up. That matches what Thexlon asked me. He wanted to know if human mothers still teach their young to fight. When I said that most human children learn some form of martial arts or sports, he made a sound like a scream. There's more, Jihoon added. We intercepted some alien communications, not classified stuff, just public broadcasts. But the translations are disturbing. They're talking about the return of the nightmare species and the children of the Forge awakening again. Admiral Chan-Woo was a military man who had seen action in several conflicts. He was not easily disturbed. But the pattern emerging from these reports was deeply troubling. I'm calling a full intelligence briefing, he said. Report back to Earth immediately. All of you. Sir, Jihoon said. What should I tell my crew? Tell them to be extra careful and avoid any actions that could be seen as threatening. And tell them to stay close to the ship. If we need to leave quickly, I want everyone ready to move. After ending the communications, Chan-Woo immediately contacted Director Yunbi of Human Intelligence. Yunbi was one of the few people who knew about humanity's secret monitoring operations throughout galactic space. Yunbi, I need to know if your people have picked up anything unusual in alien communications. Yunbi's image appeared on his screen. She looked tired and worried. More than unusual, Admiral, it's unprecedented. The entire galactic communication network is buzzing with references to something called the Forge of Nightmares. Our linguistic analysis suggests this is some kind of historical reference that has the aliens extremely frightened. Historical? Reference to what? That's what we're trying to figure out. But based on the communications we've intercepted, it appears to be connected to Earth. Several messages specifically mention our solar system coordinates and use terms that translate roughly to the nightmare world, or the cradle of violence. Chan-Woo sat back in his chair. Are you telling me the aliens have some kind of historical record about Earth? It looks that way. And whatever they know, it's got them scared enough to start talking about quarantine procedures and defensive measures. The implications were staggering. Humanity had always assumed they were unknown to the galaxy before first contact. The idea that aliens had been aware of Earth for thousands of years and afraid of it changed everything. Sir, Yunbi continued, there's something else. We've detected increased military activity near several human outposts, ships moving into position, communications being encrypted at higher levels. It looks like they're preparing for something. Preparing for what? Unknown. But if I had to guess, I'd say they're getting ready to either contain us or defend against us. Chan-Woo made a decision. Pull all our deep cover agents out of alien territory. Recall every human ship to Earth space. And contact our allies. I want to know who we can trust if this situation gets worse. Admiral, Yunbi said quietly, what if we don't have any allies? What if the entire galaxy sees us as a threat? It was a question Chan-Woo had been trying not to think about, but he couldn't ignore it any longer. Meanwhile, on a distant research station, Professor Hyejin was making a discovery that would change everything she thought she knew about human history. Hyejin was an archaeologist who specialized in ancient, human civilizations. She had been reviewing recently discovered artifacts when she found something that didn't make sense. The artifacts were from a dig site in Central Asia, dated to approximately 50,000 years ago. They were clearly human in origin, but they depicted technologies that shouldn't have existed, metal alloys that humanity had only recently developed, weapons that looked remarkably similar to modern spacecraft designs, and strangest of all, star charts that showed accurate positions of distant solar systems. This can't be right, Hyejin muttered. examining the artifacts under a magnifying field. These predate human spaceflight by thousands of years, but the more she studied them, the more convinced she became that they were authentic. The metal showed proper aging. The star charts matched current astronomical data, and the artistic style was consistent with other artifacts from the same period. She ran the star charts through her computer, looking for matches in the galactic database. What she found made her hands shake. The charts showed detailed knowledge of star systems throughout what was now Council space. They marked planets that had been inhabited by ancient civilizations. They even showed trade routes that matched ancient galactic shipping lanes. How did primitive humans know about alien civilizations? She asked herself. The answer came when she found the final artifact in the collection. It was a small data crystal, clearly of alien manufacture but modified with human techniques. When she managed to activate it, the crystal displayed a message in ancient human writing. "We have chosen to forget," the message read. "Our children must not know what we were capable of. Let them believe we were always primitive, always peaceful. The galaxy has suffered enough from our pride. We go now to our isolation, hoping that time will make us worthy of the stars again." The message was signed with a name that made Heejin's blood freeze. Admiral Minho, last commander of the Terran fleet. She immediately tried to contact Admiral Chanwu, but found that all communications with Earth Command were restricted. Emergency protocols were in effect. Instead, she sent her data to Dr. So-Young, who was already en route back to Earth. If these artifacts were genuine, they proved that humanity had not only been in space before, but had been involved in some kind of galactic conflict that had ended with Earth's voluntary isolation. Dr. So-Young received Heejin's data while her ship was still in transit. As she reviewed the archaeological evidence, pieces of a terrifying puzzle began falling into place. The aliens' strange questions about human children learning to fight. Their fear when she mentioned human pain tolerance. Their panic when Dong-Yun had described human wars. And now, evidence that humans had once been active in galactic space during what the aliens called their ancient period. She forwarded the data to Dong-Yun and Ji-Hoon, along with her own analysis. Her conclusion was simple, but devastating. Humanity had somehow suppressed its own history. For 50,000 years, humans had lived in ignorance of their true past, but the galaxy remembered. On the bridge of the New Horizon, Captain Ji-Hoon read Dr. So-Young's message with growing horror. If she was right, then humanity's peaceful first. Contact had been a lie from the beginning. The aliens hadn't been welcoming new neighbors, they had been watching the return of an ancient enemy. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from an alien ship. They're requesting permission to board." Ji-Hoon's first instinct was to refuse. But then he realized that running away would only confirm alien suspicions that humans were. The Great Assembly Hall on Nexus Prime had never seen a gathering like this. Representatives from every member species of the Galactic Council filled the chamber, their faces showing fear, confusion, and desperate hope. Emergency sessions were rare, but a session called to discuss the potential extinction of galactic civilization was unprecedented. High Archon Zephyrix stood at the center of the chamber, ancient and tired. In his 3,000 years of leadership, he had never faced a crisis like this. The choice before them was simple in its horror: trust the humans or destroy them before they could destroy everyone else. "Council members," Zephyrix began, his voice carrying across the silent chamber, "we face a decision that will determine the fate of our civilization. The evidence is clear. The species we know as humans are the same beings who once brought our galaxy to the edge of destruction. The question we must answer is, what do we do about it?" Admiral Korath stepped forward, his massive stone form radiating determination. "The answer is obvious. We strike first, before they remember what they are capable of. Every day we wait makes them stronger." A murmur of agreement rippled through part of the assembly, but it was countered by voices of protest. "They have done nothing wrong," called out Representative Thylon, his crystalline form flickering with agitation. "We cannot destroy an entire species based on ancient history." "Ancient history," Korath's voice boomed through the chamber. "I have read the reports. These beings turned their moon into a weapon. They fought 12 species simultaneously and 1. They built technology we still do not understand. And you call this ancient history? But they chose to stop. Thylon responded. They could have conquered the galaxy, but they chose isolation instead. That shows wisdom, not threat. Or patience, Korath countered. Perhaps they knew that time would make them stronger. Perhaps 50,000 years of isolation was not punishment but preparation. The debate continued for hours, with species choosing sides based on their own fears and hopes. The warrior cultures supported immediate action. The peaceful civilizations argued for caution. The ancient species who remembered the old stories remained terrifyingly silent. Meanwhile, Earth's solar system was experiencing unprecedented activity. Human ships were returning from across the galaxy, forming a defensive perimeter around their home world. But it was not the kind of aggressive positioning that military analysts expected from an expansionist species. Admiral Chanwu stood in Earth Command's Situation Room, surrounded by screens showing ship movements throughout human space. The returning vessels were not arranging themselves for attack. They were forming a protective shell around Earth and its colonies. "Sir," reported Captain Jihoon, who had just arrived with his alien passenger, "all human vessels have been recalled, successfully. We are tracking 47 alien ships maintaining position just outside our defensive perimeter. They appear to be observing rather than threatening." "Good," Chanwu replied. "The last thing we need is a misunderstanding that starts a war." Cultural analyst Vexathon stood nearby, his scales shifting between purple and blue as he observed human military procedures. What he saw both amazed and terrified him. The humans were organizing their defenses with casual efficiency that spoke of deep experience, but they were not preparing to attack. They were preparing to protect their home. "Admiral Chanwu," Vexathon said carefully, "may I ask why your ships are positioned defensively rather than offensively?" Chanwu looked at the alien with genuine confusion. "Why would we position them offensively? We're not planning to attack anyone." "But the ancient records suggest that humans always attacked when threatened. The phrase 'the best defense is a good offense' appears repeatedly in the historical documents." "That's true in some situations," Chanwu agreed. "But right now we don't know what we're dealing with. Until we understand the situation better, our priority is protecting our people." Vexthon's scales shifted to a color he had never displayed before, a confused swirl of green and gold. In all the ancient reports, humans had been described as aggressive, always attacking, always advancing. The idea that they might choose patience and caution did not appear in any historical record. Dr. So-Young entered the Situation Room, carrying a datapad filled with the archaeological evidence from Professor Hiejin. "Admiral, I think I understand what's happening. The aliens aren't just afraid of what we might do. They're afraid of what we apparently did before." She activated the holographic display, showing the ancient artifacts and star charts. According to this evidence, humans were active in galactic space 50,000 years ago. We were apparently involved in a major conflict that traumatized the entire galaxy. "And then we just left?" Chanwu asked. "More than that. We deliberately erased our own history. The message from Admiral Minho suggests that ancient humanity chose to forget their galactic period entirely, hoping that isolation would change our species." Vexthon listened to this exchange with growing amazement. "You truly do not remember? Your species has no records of the galactic wars?" "What galactic wars?" Dr. So-Young asked. The wars where your ancestors conquered half of known space, where human tactics revolutionized warfare, where entire species learned to fear a world they called the Forge of Nightmares." Chanwu and Dr. So-Young exchanged glances. The name matched references they had intercepted from alien communications. "Tell us," Chanwu said. "Tell us what our ancestors did." Vexthon's scales shifted to deep purple again. "Admiral, I do not think you want to know. The knowledge might change you." "We need to know. If we're going to solve this situation, we need to understand what the galaxy is afraid of." Reluctantly, Vexthon began to explain. He told them about the ancient reports of human tactical brilliance, about weapons that should not have been possible, about humans who seemed to thrive on impossible odds, about a species that could turn anything into a tool of war but preferred to use those same tools to build gardens. The most terrifying thing about your ancestors, Vexthon concluded, was not their capacity for violence, it was their capacity for everything. They could outthink our best strategists, outbuild our greatest engineers, and outfight our most feared warriors. But they could also create art that made beings weep with beauty, and write philosophy that changed how entire species understood existence. And that's scary? Dr. Soyoung asked. Perfection is always terrifying, Vexthon replied. Your ancestors were not evil. Evil we could have fought. They were simply better than everyone else at everything that mattered. That kind of superiority is difficult to accept. The conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication from Director Yunbi. Admiral, we're receiving a priority transmission from the Galactic Council. They're requesting immediate diplomatic contact. Put it through. High Archon Zephyrix appeared on the main screen, his ancient features showing the strain of recent events. Admiral Chanwu, I am High Archon Zephyrix of the Galactic Council. We need to discuss the current situation. I agree, Chanwu replied, but I think there may be some misunderstandings that need to be cleared up. Misunderstandings? Zephyrix looked puzzled. Admiral, our records indicate that your species once controlled a significant portion of galactic space. Are you suggesting these records are inaccurate? No, sir, I'm suggesting that we don't remember any of it. The silence that followed was so complete that both humans and aliens began to wonder if the communication had failed. Finally, Zephyrix spoke. You do not remember the galactic wars? We have no records of any galactic wars until 6 months ago. We believed we were alone in the universe. But your military capabilities, your tactical thinking, your species' natural aggression. What aggression? Chanwu asked. High Archon, humans prefer peace. We fight only when we have no choice. Another long silence. Then Zephyrix asked a question that would change everything. Admiral, what would your species do if you felt threatened by the entire galaxy? Chanwu considered the question carefully. It was exactly the kind of strategic thinking that had once made humans the most feared species in known space. But he didn't know that. We would defend ourselves, he said finally. But we would also try to understand why the galaxy felt threatened. We would look for solutions that didn't require violence. And if no peaceful solution existed, then we would do whatever was necessary to protect our people. But we would take no pleasure in it. Zephyrix felt something like relief flow through his ancient form. This was not the response the old records had predicted. Ancient humans had been described as eager for conflict, thriving on challenge. These humans seemed genuinely reluctant to fight. Admiral, Zephyrix said slowly, I believe we may have an opportunity to solve this crisis, but it will require trust from both sides. What do you propose? The galaxy is afraid of humanity because of what your ancestors were capable of. But perhaps your ancestors were not the true measure of your species. Perhaps modern humanity has grown beyond what you once were. Chanwu nodded. We're willing to prove that if given the chance. And if you learned that your species was once capable of terrible things, would that knowledge change you? It was Dr. Soyoung who answered. High Archon, every species is capable of terrible things.